We were spending $8,000 a month to live in Dallas, and now we live in Europe for $1,800. And just one lifestyle change has saved us over $1,000 a month. And we haven't sacrificed nearly as much as you might think. We didn't just lower our cost of living, we changed what we value spending money on. But when I shared my budget in my interview with Dan from Vagabond Awake, link in the description below, people thought that we were overspending. So I want to show you exactly where every dollar went and show you exactly what's changed. According to a study done by smartasset.com, a person living in the Plano area, that's the area that we were in, needs $109,000 a year to live comfortably. But the word comfortably is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. What does that actually mean and what does it really look like? Now this is just a random month that happened to be at our monthly average of 8K. Some months were more, some were less. Some people are gonna see this and think these numbers are crazy high, and other people are gonna see this and laugh at how low they are. Just remember that money works differently for everybody, so let's be nice to each other in the comments, okay? And even though my living expenses are drastically lower now living here in Vlora, the cost of living based on the average salaries here is still very high. A lot of people working in this economy are really struggling right now, so I'm not trying to paint a picture of some financial paradise. Having said all that, let's take a look at our February budget from 2024 living in Dallas, Texas, and compare it to our February budget having just lived here in Albania in 2026. First and foremost, let's cover overhead. All right, let's put a couple of counters up so we can keep track here. Now this one is easy and one of my favorite parts. When we first purchased our house, our mortgage payment was $1,800 a month. But about a year after moving in, our insurance and property taxes went up, and that meant that our mortgage payment became $2,375 a month. So that's where we'll start. When we left the US, we sold the house and we took the equity that we had in the house and we put it into purchasing an apartment here in Albania, completely debt-free. That's a big goose egg in the Albania side. Now let's add utilities to this category. In Dallas, our electric bill was $227. Here in Vlora, it was $55. Then we had natural gas, that was another $141. But here in Albania, we have everything electric, so that's another $0. Our water bill in our city was unusually high. This month it was $108, but here in Vlora, it was $15. Our high-speed internet had been steadily increasing for a long time in the US. This particular month it was $81. Just recently I had to increase the speed on our internet here in the apartment, and it went from $12 to $15. This is a good place to include our cell phone expenses. I had my phone with my wife's bundled together on a pretty inexpensive plan for $90. But here in Albania, we're able to maintain our US numbers and we have local numbers, and that's for a total of $76. Maintenance is another thing to put in living expenses. This month in Texas, we had a pest control visit and that was about $150, but that could stand in for anything. It could be an electrician or a plumber. When you're a homeowner, you never know when you're gonna need a professional to come out and take a look at something. This particular month in Albania, we didn't have any expenses like that, but I know they will pop up eventually. But labor expenses for things in that area are drastically less expensive. So far, we have a total of $3,172 on the US side compared to $161 here in Vlora. That's a pretty stark contrast. Now on to one of my favorite categories, transportation. This one right here. This is one of the biggest differences in our budget. A huge goal for us was to live without a car. We had 3 vehicles. We had 2 personal vehicles and a work truck for a personal business. The work truck and one of the personal vehicles were owned outright, debt-free. But in 2023, we started to finance a brand new electric vehicle. That was a huge mistake. Definitely regret that. So that means first we had the car loan itself, which had a monthly payment of $683 a month. Then we had insurance costs for all 3 vehicles. We bundled our insurance payments into 6 months so we could save a little bit money on the payment. And wouldn't you know it, this month we had one of those giant payments. It was $1,960. Next is gasoline. This particular month it was $109, which is actually a lot lower than we averaged. Even owning an electric car, it was not difficult for us to spend multiple hundreds of dollars on gas a month. We lived in an area where toll roads were prevalent. We spent $80 on toll roads. That was pretty typical for us. And then we had some additional registration fees for another $78. We had a membership to the local car wash, of course. That was $30 a month, plus random parking fees. That was another $11. That brings our transportation total up to $29.51 for the month. Here in Vlora, we have no car and no need for one. So there's no payment, no insurance, no fuel costs. When we need to take a trip that's too far to walk, we either take a taxi or a bus. In February this year, we spent $22 on transportation costs. This change alone has saved us over $1,000 a month. That's over $12,000 a year. Plus, we benefit from the more active lifestyle. When you consider that we can live an entire month here for under $2,000, you can see why pursuing a lifestyle like this is appealing. That's a grand total of $6,123 on the US side compared to $183 in Albania. Now let's talk about food. Here's something I didn't expect. We actually spend more on food in Albania than we did in the US. I know this one's gonna cause some controversy in the comments. In the US, in February of 2024, our grocery bill was $635. We were buying some pre-made lunches to save time. That was $238 a month. Then we spent $206 that month on restaurants. That breaks down to about $50 a week. And then we spent $34 that month on fast food. That brings us to a total for the month on food to $1,113. Compared to here in Albania, breaks down a little differently. We spent $972 on groceries, $182 on restaurants. We took a quick trip to Tirana that month, and so we kind of splurged. We usually don't spend that much. And then we spent $132 on coffee shops. That puts us at a total for the food budget here in Albania at $1,286. Now, that's the highest item by far, but we really prioritize healthy food here. And that's, in my opinion, the best thing that you could spend your money on. So far, that puts us in the US at $7,236 compared to $1,469 in Albania. Now, let's talk briefly about healthcare. When we were living in the US at this time, we had insurance, but we were covered through Megan's employer, and the payment came out through her paycheck before we received it. So we didn't really see the expense coming out of our budget, but that doesn't mean that we weren't paying for it. I just can't tell you exactly how much it was. That month we did have one doctor's visit with a copay of $30, plus an ongoing prescription that we pay for that was $60, putting the medical budget that particular month at $90 for February. Here in Albania, we still purchase the same prescription, actually for the same cost, so that's still $60 a month. We haven't had to see a doctor, so I haven't spent anything in that category. But once our immigration is completed, I'll be in the national system. My understanding is I'll be paying into that. It's going to cost about $180 a month, but we haven't paid for it yet, so I don't have experience with it personally yet. We currently have a very minimal, inexpensive policy on Megan, just to help with the residency process. We didn't have any expense for that in February, and so this budget will definitely be going up here in the future, but currently there's nothing here for this. That brings us to a US total of $7,326 compared to an Albanian budget of $1,529. Now for the fun stuff. Entertainment. Looking back on this, I see we definitely spent more than we should have, but these are pretty common looking numbers for a lot of people. First, I purchased a couple of video games. That was $87, and we spent $62 on streaming services. We used to do a weekly movie night, and often we'd watch a current movie. We spent $34 that month. Megan purchased some books for $26, and we spent $25 on a ticket for a random event that we went to. We also each had a music subscription for $18, which brings our entertainment budget in the US up to $252 for the month. Last February here in Vlora, I purchased one game. It was $13. We spent $37 on streaming services, and my music is now bundled in with my YouTube Premium subscription, so that's a lot lower. We spent $32 on movies and $13 on books. That puts us at $95 for entertainment expenses here in Albania. So in the US, that's going to be a total of $7,578 compared to Albania, $1,624. There are a lot of other things in a US budget that will absolutely nickel and dime you. I'm not going to cover everything, but I'll put a few more things in this category. We'll call this miscellaneous. I would often buy our pet food in bulk, and so I didn't have to buy it in this particular month, but we still had work schedules that meant occasionally we had to hire a dog walker. So this particular month in our pet budget, we spent $28. Megan gets her nails done very consistently. We budgeted $60 a visit for that. And that particular month, we had home supply purchases for $43. That was pretty typical. $34 on shoes, $33 at the dry cleaner, $28 on toiletries, hygiene items, products, things like that. All adds up to a total of $226. Compared to here, we have no pet expenses. Megan gets her nails done here for $25, and she loves the quality of the work. She raves about it all the time, really likes her nail place and the nail girl. Ask us in the comments if you want a suggestion for that. I'm sure she'd love to share it. We spent $19 on home supplies. I haven't had to buy any shoes yet because I brought a bunch of pairs with me, and honestly, when I buy some, I'm probably just gonna have them shipped from the US. I don't have a need for dry cleaning anymore. We haven't really had to spend much on toiletries yet because we brought a lot with us, so I don't really have much to report yet on that. We did have to deal with a lot of shipping expenses that we didn't have in the US, and so for that category, that was $69 here, along with some legal expenses that are kind of ongoing in the residency process for $68. So in this miscellaneous category in Albania, we're at $181. So let's see some totals here. For the US, that was $7,804 compared to Albania, which was $1,805. That's a total savings of over 75%. Or I could say I'm living on less than 25% of my previous US budget. But here's where it gets really crazy. That budget is from over 2 years ago, and we've seen a lot of inflation since then. That doesn't really accurately reflect the purchasing power of what that number would be these days. That means if we take that US number and adjust it for the current monetary value, it becomes $8,300. Which means we're actually living on 21% of our previous US budget, or about a fifth of what we used to live on. Absolutely mind-blowing. Is our lifestyle identical? No. Is that bad? Definitely not. Will our budget stay this low? No, but it'll still be drastically lower even when it goes up. Could we have lived on less in the US? Of course. But these are very average looking numbers for middle class families in the US, especially if they live in a high cost of living area like the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We could have spent more. We could have been financing all 3 of the vehicles, and we could have lived in a bigger house. But we really tried to live beneath our means, even as excessively as I can now see that we were living. And that's one of the reasons that we were able to come here in the first place. So tell me, was this relatable, or do you think I'm crazy? What does your US budget look like? What are you spending the most on? If you'd like to support the channel, you can scan the QR code here, or you can look for the link to buy me a coffee in the description below. If you like the video, subscribe, give me a thumbs up. If you have a question about what life's like in Albania, I bet I have an answer for you. See you soon.